This is Hannibal here from the HannibalTV.com with my weekly review of the Wrestling Observer newsletter. I'll get right into it with the WWE news, and I am reading it off my screen today. So reading the notes that I took, which is just the notes that I found interesting. There's a lot more news and results for people that want to actually get the Observer that I don't report on because, frankly, I don't give a damn about it. In WWE news, according to Slam Wrestling, Carlito didn't appear on the Raw Legends night because he was never booked on it at all. And no announcement was made on why he wasn't there. Apparently, also advertised for the event, but didn't appear on the event was Beth Phoenix, Candice Michelle, Eve Torres, Hillbilly Jim, Ivory, Jacqueline, Kurt Angle, and Michael Hayes. For whatever reason, they were advertised but not used. According to the Observer, WWE viewership was down 8% last year, continuing the trend of viewership gets lower every year for WWE. Daniel Bryan, who is in creative now for SmackDown, has been pushing to bring in more NXT talent to SmackDown. With NXT getting much lower ratings than SmackDown, I'm not sure why you would want to do that. Hulk Hogan spoke to ESPN regarding his appearance on Legends Night and said that his backstage reaction isn't always great when he returns. At least for the fan reaction, now they just pipe in fake fan music. So they can fake audience sounds so they can make them seem as over as they want. Mick Foley tested positive for COVID last night. His worst symptoms seem to have been a body ache and a headache for a few days. He is no longer contagious and is out of self-quarantine. He mentioned that the worst part about it was missing the holidays with his family. AEW only did a 0.25 this week to NXT's 0.16. So again, NXT is getting 0.16. SmackDown last week did a 0.53. Why would you bring stars from a lower show to a show that's getting higher ratings? Obviously, it's not working out for the AEW collaboration they're doing with Impact. Impact didn't even, to my knowledge, post their ratings this week. And the last rating I saw posted from Impact on a show that featured Kenny Omega was a 0.03. So 0.03. So obviously the collaboration isn't working out too great for Impact either, although maybe a 0.03 is good for them. I really don't know. Raw Legends Night did a 0.68, which was down from the previous Legends Night they did a couple years ago with Hogan and Flair and all those guys. It did, I think, a 1.14 in 2019. So you see the decline happening year to year. And also, there's only so many times you can bring those guys out to just stand around and do their shtick. It's good for them getting a payday, but it becomes less and less special every time you do it, and the guys get older and older every time they do it. AEW's January 6th Dynamite that, as mentioned previously, did a 0.25 rating, drew 650 paid fans and 120 comps were given out. Apparently, the Brodie Lee Jr. contract that he signed with AEW cannot be executed until his 18th birthday. I think he's only 8 now. And it's only going to be executed if AEW is still around by then. So if AEW, for whatever reason, is closed or out of business by then, that contract will not be valid. Apparently, the 8-year-old did some angles with Marco Stunt on AEW Dark, but according to Meltzer, that stuff was just for fun. AEW, it seems everything they do is just for fun. But yeah, I don't know. Sorry about the Brodie Lee passing. That's all I got to say about that. But I don't know about the comedy stuff that AEW does. The stuff I saw of Snoop Dogg coming off the top with one of the worst moves ever and pinning one of the AEW full-time wrestlers. Just, what's that going to get you in the long run? To me, it didn't look cool. Maybe some of Snoop Dogg's fans are going to watch that, but it doesn't get your wrestler over that he just pinned. In other wrestling news, this really angered me yesterday. The Parole Board of Canada released Kurt Lauder, who used to wrestle in Quebec as Kurt Lauderdale. I trained with him at Jacques Rougeau's school. I know he wrestled Jacques on a show I was on in 2002. He also wrestled Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn when Sami was known as El Generico. He was released after 14 years by the Parole Board of Canada. He had committed, quote, an extremely hideous murder, end quote. But he's being paroled after serving only 14 years behind bars in relation to killing 16-year-old Shanna Poissant in the summer of 2005 via blunt force trauma. According to CBC and Toronto Sun, he had beat her up with a bar in his parents' basement. His parents actually attempted to help him dispose of evidence from the killing prior to his arrest. While in prison, this piece of shit changed his name to Victor Alexander Vanderstorm. So in Canada, I guess you can brutally kill an innocent girl. She was only 16. I think he was 23 at the time. And you can be out by the time you're 37. In Ring of Honor news, their former booker, Marty Scurll, or Marty, whatever the hell his last name is, Scurll, he was officially released after it came out. He had had sex with a 16-year-old when he was approximately 27 years old. According to Meltzer, it's hard to know whether anyone in the US or UK is going to use him again with that information out there. Craig Greenberg and Matt Jones, who are from Kentucky Sports Radio, led a group of investors to purchase the majority interest of Ohio Valley Wrestling from Al Snow. Al Snow is going to continue to run the day-to-day operations and be in charge of the wrestling product. Sarah Stock, who is a recently released WWE producer, originally from Canada, but from the last I heard, she's now living in a van, driving around the United States. Unfortunately, had a fall on January 1st and broke a bone and ruptured a ligament in her right leg. She had to undergo surgery for this. And from what I understand, that's her driving foot. So I don't know how that's going to affect her getting around in the van that she's living in now. We had heard reports of Sarah Stock being arrested over this past summer for getting into a bar fight, which I think she only had to pay a fine ultimately in that situation. For New Japan Wrestle Kingdom, from what I read in The Observer, it appears that they had somewhere around 20,000 people for both Wrestle Kingdom shows. So Japan allowed them to have a good amount of fans in there for those shows, despite the current situation in the world. Here in Canada, in Ontario, Canada, we're on full lockdown here right now. Can't even work out until at least January 26th. In UFC news, Irwin Rivera, a 31-year-old bantamweight, was arrested and charged with 2 counts of attempted murder on January 7th due to suspicion of stabbing his sisters. He's been suspended already by the UFC. Tito Ortiz, who is now the mayor of Huntington Beach, California, where I actually interviewed Tito a few years ago. That's up here on the Hannibal TV, as well as my interview with Tank Abbott that I did there. I guess he's been barred from all city council meetings for the rest of the pandemic due to his refusal to wear a mask as mandated. It's funny, here in Ontario, they took a break of vaccinating people for the holidays. And from what I understand, Ontario has been one of the slowest provinces in rolling out the vaccinations. They're more worried about keeping us all locked down than vaccinating people, which sucks. There's more and more regulations, it seems, being put against us every day. I'll go into a couple of questions. That's all for my Observer review. Dennis Weber, was there another promotion I talked about last night for false advertising, or last month? Yes, there was a promotion run by a guy who had previously had allegations against him for stealing money in New York, that ran a show, NAWA in Daytona Beach, that false advertised 11 talent that were not at the event, which only had about between 50 and 75 people in Daytona Beach, Florida, which Bob Cook, former WCW enhancement talent, was at that event, and he rated the event a 2 out of 10. Todd Bearcraft says Ryan Kennelly would love to be interviewed. Anything's possible. Send me the information. Someone making fun of Snoop Dogg beating the wrestler. Big Block 2021 is a huge fan of my channel. Says I give the best interviews and wrestling reports. Thank you. Rich Feria says Marty Scurll is as small as a squirrel. I agree. He is. Maybe he should stick with that name and come out in a squirrel suit. Burley Sullivan says, I got an interview with Kurt Angle. Yes, I do. Coming up April 14th at 3 p.m. It is set for a few months away. He's got a busy schedule, and I've been working on that one for a while. Matt Jarrett, who is the promoter of World Pro Wrestling in the UK, says Marty Scurll will go to AEW. He's mates with Cody. I know he's friends with those guys, just like Joey Ryan is, but I don't think they're going to touch him with a 50-foot pole if he's had sex with a 16-year-old, which isn't looked good upon in the United States overall. I don't think it's going to happen. Just like they're not going to bring back in Joey Ryan, who had something like 17 accusations against him related to inappropriate behavior. Justin Ames says the UFC isn't a court of law, though they can do what they please. If you mean suspending the fighter accused of stabbing, well, they don't have a choice. I'm not saying he's guilty either. I don't even know who he is. But until an investigation is done, you have to suspend someone like that. You can't keep using an alleged murderer. What about says false advertising is a regular practice with companies in general. False advertising really hurts companies. So say I tuned into Raw, which I didn't, to watch Kurt Angle appear, and he didn't show up. Why would I trust them when they do another Legends night? And from what I recall, the 2019 Legends night that they did, that also had Hogan on it, also false advertised some people that weren't on it. So maybe that's one of the reasons why the rating for this Legend night was significantly less. Joseph enjoys my interviews. Thank you. I got a bunch coming up. Ted Arcidi next week. I'm really looking forward to that. Tommy Rich is supposed to happen this month. I did one with Demolition Smash yesterday, a part 2. Lots of good ones coming up. Todd has a question for me about Kurt Angle. Well, it's not till April, so save the questions for closer to the time, because You know what? I don't have a memory if someone tells me something in January to think of it again in April. Just to name says the UFC should outright release him. I'd be surprised if they use him again because I think his record was 1 win and 2 losses in UFC. Don't quote me on that. But I don't think he had the best record, and it's not like it was a Conor McGregor that's really making them a lot of money. So I don't think it's going to matter if he's released or not. And one of my webmasters here does remind everyone, if you check out our channel membership program, it's only $1.99 a month, and you're really helping us. And some of the live streams, I'm still going to give some free live streams like the Bill Apter one I did last night. And, of course, my news live streams. But some of the big ones that I pay for, like the Barry Darso and like the Ted RC one next week, they're only going to be live to channel members. They will eventually be released to everyone. But for the people that are going to help me pay for them, they're going to get that benefit of being on those members-only live streams. And imagine if I had 10,000 people paying $1.99 a month. I know YouTube takes like 30% of that, but imagine the events I could put on and the interviews I could get. Chug Alert tips me $6.99 Canadian. Thank you very much. What about, is Selena De La Renta the Bloodhunters' new official manager? I don't know. You'd have to ask Selena that. But from what I understand, that's his SWE Fury manager. Who manages him in Great North Wrestling will depend on the situation. If this ever ends and if it's not Armageddon and if things ever return to normal. We are on Instagram and Twitter at the Hannibal TV, by the way. What about says I should do a fantasy booking for my membership-only content. Well, right now I only got 40 members. Maybe if it gets to the point where we have enough, yes, I could do votes on there. For instance, who do you want to see? Maybe I could put up like 5 matches of people that people could vote on for Great North Wrestling, and you guys could vote on who you want to see. And Just to Name joined the membership yesterday and says great content. Paladin says AEW fans watch the news. I'm a wrestling fan, and I don't watch the news. I'm sure some do, but I find the news is so biased, and it's all just propaganda. I don't personally follow it. And by the way, we do stream now on Facebook as well, which I'm going to say hi from Facebook right now. If we do stream on Facebook. If you want to join there, all of our videos on Facebook are ad-free. Apparently, NBA Twitter roasted Jericho and AEW. I don't even want to think about AEW. It's just comedy stuff. It's an embarrassment to wrestling for me, as is Impact. I'd rather think about companies I like. Like I'll end this off with a plug for SWE Fury, February 6th. Great card coming up on February 6th. And they recently announced they're bringing in Shaul Guerrero, Lacey Von Erich, and Miranda Gordy for future events. Melina and Teddy Long. Teddy Long's the GM of SWE Fury, but Melina is going to be appearing the February 27th SWE Fury event in Carthage, along with Jazz, Lacey Von Erich, Shaul Guerrero, Kevin Sullivan, and I guess Selena is going to manage the Blood Hunter there. So there's your answer. Christy James, the champion, is also going to be there. Lots of cool events coming up for SWE Fury, which, by the way, has great TV reach. They're on all over the United States. And they also have a YouTube channel, SWE Fury, where they are going to start posting their full TV shows, their new ones starting next week. And they're going back right now and posting classic TV shows, as well as interviews I do with SWE Fury stars. So they're going back to the classic Texas style of wrestling. As Dennis Weber says, great to see Lacey's coming back. I'm going to be interviewing her too. So it's going to be interesting. Just to name one of our members, how would I characterize SWE? Well, I'm new to it, but they want to bring back the Texas style. Joseph wants to see SWE Fury in Houston. I would say that with guys like James Beard, Kevin Sullivan, and Teddy Long booking SWE Fury, and Tom Lance is part of it too. He's one of the Office. He's not a widely known name, but he's been promoting in Texas since 1988. You got some old school guys that are going to put out an old school product. Mark says, who is my current favorite wrestler? Well, I would have to say it is the Blood Hunter, who is my favorite wrestler by far. So that's it for now. Have a great night.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and click the subscribe button to not miss any of our latest shoot interviews, match videos, or news updates. Support us on Patreon.com